Welcome to Talkin' Ball with Scott Theisen and Drew DeArmond. Call into the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline now, 256-576-4977. That's 256-576-4977. Now, here's Scott and Drew.
Once again to another brand new live edition of Talking Ball, 97.7 ESPN The Zone. Scott Theisen, Drew DeArmond on a Monday morning, and that means we are live from Bill Penny Toyota, sitting out here in the service department, Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., and then on Saturday, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. They can service your vehicles, and it is like good old, remember those days of Black Friday, or, good Black Friday, Christmas shopping when the stores would open at 6 a.m. and there'll be long lines of people and they're all flocking in to get the best deals. That's kind of what it was like this morning here at Bill Penny Toyota. The doors just open, and the garage doors just open, and the cars are rolling in early here at Bill Penny Toyota to get your car serviced. So get on out here and do that if you will. 256-576-4977. That's how you can be a part of the conversation this morning. And NCAA basketball tournament continues to take the headlines. And with Houston hanging on, and hanging on last night against Texas A&M.
Best game of the tournament, man.
It does mean that all four number one seeds have made it through the first weekend. So did all the number two seeds. That has only happened 4 times since the field was expanded to 64 teams, 1985 and 2019. Those were the last 2 times that happened. And 16 teams of the remaining 16 teams, there's 16 left, obviously, because of the Sweet 16. 12 of them were seated on the top 4 lines. Another 2, Gonzaga, San Diego State, they're 5. Clemson, number 6. NC State, number 11. Those, really, if you're looking for a Cinderella, NC State would probably be it. So you get your Sweet 16 matchups. Arizona, Clemson. You get UConn, San Diego State, North Carolina, Alabama, Iowa State, Illinois, Marquette, NC State, Purdue, Gonzaga, Houston, Duke, Tennessee, and Creighton. Those are your Sweet 16 matchups.
I don't even consider NC State a Cinderella. That's like UCLA.
Right.
When they nearly went to the championship game in the COVID tournament that was held in Indianapolis. Just because, look, man, They won the ACC tournament, winning 5 games in 5 days. They're a Power 5 program. They've won 2 national championships. To their credit, no question about it. So they're a program that has a lot of tradition.
Yes.
They hadn't won the ACC tournament since 1987, since the days of Jimmy V. But again, I believe in they are definitely a program that you have to respect. And it's my old saying. It may say 11 by their seeding, but it's NC State. So there's really,
the name is there.
Yeah.
The seed is what?
Now, if Yale had won, which they got boat raced by San Diego State, or if
Oakland had
beat NC State. But here's the thing. It shows you how the landscape has changed. In years past, before this program got established under Steve Fisher and Brian Dutcher continued it, San Diego State would have qualified for that.
Yes.
But
they're beyond that now.
This is the team that went to the national championship game last year.
They're the only ones keeping the Mountain West Conference.
Well, the Mountain West Conference had 6 teams get in.
But San Diego State is the one that continues to.
Now they're the program out there,
yes.
And that's why there was a lot of talk during realignment that they might end up in the Pac-2, but before it disintegrated, and might end up or in the Big 12, somewhere like that. But they have not. but still, I mean, they're a really good program. And so you're right. There's not really a true Cinderella left. There's a lot of star power. And then I had a friend, Freddie Kirby. He's been on this show. He listens to us every day. He made a great point. He said, look, and now he's banged up again, and Alabama had to win without him last night for much of the game. But when Latrell Wrightsell was healthy, Alabama, you could argue, was the best team in the SEC, or right there with Tennessee. And then now that's what's come to pass in the tournament. The two SEC teams that are alive are Tennessee and Alabama. Here's the thing: I've had a pretty good run now. Some of my brackets the last three or 4 years have been awful. Like I'm talking about by the second day, my bracket was just blown to hell. Right. I've got 13 of the 16 alive and all my Final Four. Now, Houston, that was the best game of the tournament. If they had lost, I'd have been in big trouble.
Yeah, they nearly let a big lead get away. They go to overtime against Texas A&M, and they're able to get to the Sweet 16. Of course, Houston, our good friend Bobby Champagne is on that staff at Houston. So
and they had four guys foul out.
Yeah.
And, they had a walk-on, had to make free throws. I mean, if it had gone to double overtime, they would have been in big trouble. As people were joking, they would have had to have managers playing and everything else. But I'm just saying, right now, my bracket was affected is I did not see the Yale-Auburn thing coming at all. I was shocked that Auburn lost.
Yes.
I took a chance. And then I was surprised, not shocked. I was surprised Kentucky lost, and then I took a shot with South Carolina in their draw. I thought they could get to the Sweet 16, so I had three. I thought the SEC would acquit itself better, and they just didn't.
Want to get to Alabama here in their Grand Canyon game, but you brought up Auburn real fast, and we'll touch on that. I know if you don't follow basketball, you're going to sit there and you're going to say, well, Auburn was overseeded and all this other stuff. Auburn should have won that basketball game. They were the better team. They spend way more. They have more resources. There's no excuse for Auburn dropping that game against I thought it was a bad matchup for Auburn, but there's no excuse for Auburn dropping that ball game. And I think Auburn was seeded fine. I think they were seeded fourth. That was where they should have been. They just dropped the ball literally in that game. And I'll say this. I agree that it was a flagrant foul on Jad Baker-Mazara. I agree. I don't know about a flagrant 2, though. Am I wrong with that?
No, I thought it was a flagrant 2. Guy's been doing that all year. Been cheap shotting people. He's been talking, and I mean, I've watched the kid play. He's a good player.
Right.
But he's, and there is no doubt. But see, that's how it is a lot of times. It's not, they don't catch the first guy, they catch the second.
Yes.
He got hit in the throat, there's no question. But he measured the guy up and just clocked him. And I mean, and hit and basically headbutted him, and and just it was a tackle, man.
Right.
I'm sorry, and he did it on purpose, and they should have tossed him. I thought, and look, it's karma. He'd been doing it all year long, and he'd had flagrants called on him. He'd had he'd not been ejected, but he'd had technicals called on him for talking.
Yeah.
And so I'm sorry. A lot of times when it's kind of like Dennis Rodman. When Rodman would earn a reputation, but that's just the way it is. And so I'm sorry. I thought that was a good call. And then I thought what happened with Auburn, you could say it's a little bit of a difficult matchup, but they still should have won the game.
I agree.
They had that big time advantage inside. They got Yale's big in foul trouble. What happened to Auburn? And this is unfortunate. This is why you never can. That's why March Madness is it's the best event in sports. Auburn was rolling. They'd been rolling since mid-January. They'd been playing much better basketball. Their guards had played so much better. And down the stretch, and it's really for the entire Yale game, their guards just did not play well. They reverted back to how they were playing up and down, and for the most part not playing well in November through mid-January, where Auburn was a good team but had not gotten hot and gone on the run that they'd been on. And their guards played poorly. And it's kind of how the last 3 minutes played out, man, and I felt bad for him because really he had a pretty solid game otherwise, but if you had told me like going down the stretch of that game. Well, it's going to get close. It's going to get tight. But Denver Jones is going to be on the free throw line with a chance to, get Auburn back get them back in the lead and have a chance to, seal the game up. He misses the front end of a 1-and-1 because he's 88% shooter.
No, you're right.
He's their best shooter. Yeah. And then Yale still tried to give it away with the way they handled the pressure late in the game. And Auburn got 2 free throws from Trey Donaldson. I mean, it could have been an and one. They got the ball in right under the basket, but they called the foul. He's there for 2 free throws to tie it, and if they get it to overtime, I still feel pretty good about Auburn's chances. But he bricks them both. And even then, Auburn gets the offensive rebound.
And still has a shot to win it at the buzzer.
Yeah,
still has a shot to win. The
way KD's career had gone, it wouldn't even have shocked me. I was even telling myself, they're going to probably find a way to win this 79-78 and hit some buzzer shot. And then they probably would have beat San Diego State. In my opinion, I had them.
It would have mirrored their Final Four run where they struggle in their opening game and then go, but they didn't, and they should have won it. And there's no excuse.
And I'll say this: my last point is the only where I slightly disagree with you too is I felt like they should have been a 3 and Kentucky should have been the 4 because Auburn won the SEC tournament.
I'm not saying over. I'm saying there's people that feel there's people that don't follow basketball that felt like Auburn was overseeded.
Well, I don't think so.
I don't think they were overseeded. If anything, they
should have got a 3 or a 4, but they should have got the 3. And I'll be honest, Dan Hurley. I mean, he told his team last night. After they boat raced. Northwestern, like the committee has done us no favors, but we just got to keep blowing people out. And because UConn was the number 1 overall seed, the defending national champion, and you get a draw like that. Yeah. But now some of the draws opened up.
All right. So last night, if you watched basketball last night and you watched Alabama and Jeremy, I know you're holding, but I want to get to a couple of this before we get to the phone calls here real fast. If you watched basketball last night, I don't know if you can describe what Grand Canyon played as basketball. Charles Barkley agrees.
Grand Canyon, that was the dumbest game of basketball I think I've ever seen. Like, everybody went one-on-one. They missed how many free throws?
They missed 17. I think it was 20 for 37. So they missed 14, 23 for 37.
But I'm not sure what they were doing offensively. I don't think they ran a play the entire second half.
I couldn't dissect one.
And, Gino was doing. Gino said this was the craziest game. I said, if he mean dumb, that was some of the dumbest basketball I've ever seen. Grown college men. Sears was the only guy who played with complete composure the entire game. Congratulations to Alabama University. It's a great school. NATO does a great job. But, man, Grand Canyon.
Also known as the University of Alabama.
Well, I do that to get to Justin Thomas. but I do. He hates when I say that.
Does he?
But I'm telling you something. Me and Clark's like.
Oh, I'm just shaking my head. I'm worn out. I'm worn out.
That was some of the worst basketball decisions that you're ever going to see a college team make.
All right, there you go. Charles Barkley.
Well, I mean, he missed. He sort of left he buried the lead there. I mean, if you don't think that Mohamed Diabate didn't play with poise, then stop watching it, and you probably wish he was an Auburn Tiger because Auburn's ass is at the house. Okay, I mean, Mohamed Diabate won the game. I mean, Mark Sears had the best game, like from wire to wire. But if they don't put Mohamed Diabate back in the game all turned when Jaren Stevenson fouled out. And they put Mohamed Diabate back in because he ends up with 9 points and 5 rebounds. He made every clutch play down the stretch in the last 5 minutes. And what we just talked about with Auburn, with Denver Jones, having the great solid year that he did for Auburn and shooting 88%, if you had told me, Drew DeArmond, in the last 3 or 4 minutes of this game, you're going to need Mohamed Diabate to go 3 for 3 from the free throw line, and he shoots 43%. I would have said Alabama's in big trouble. And he made them all, Scott. And then it's pretty much one of those things where, hey, Mohamed, I know you've been bad all year, but if you make them now, nobody cares. Nobody remembers that.
Right.
And he made them all.
You have yourself a moment.
And he got big offensive rebounds, big time buckets underneath. It was his kind of game from the standpoint he's a tweener. He's about 6'6", 6'7". He's not a huge guy, but he's wide and he's physical, and that's the kind of grimy game it became. I've watched almost every Alabama game this year in some form, and Alabama has not won a game like that where they basically had to grime it out, and they did, and he was the huge reason why, because I knew near the end of the half when I saw Reitzel fall, I was like, man, he took the shot to the nose in the first game, and I was like, he took that elbow to the head. I was like, he's probably done. Because
my wife said, well, that fall didn't look real bad. And I said, well, you got to go back. He took an injury of, about a month ago. Yeah. And, you become more susceptible to anything to the head.
Yeah, and he got hit with an elbow. If you watch the replays, because he landed on his back. He didn't land on his head.
Right.
But he got elbowed in the head. And the way he got up, I was like, man, he's probably done.
His walk to the locker room was a little wobbly. Yeah. And I'm like, that's not a good sign right there.
You've been around UAH this year when they had some concussions. Yeah. And so you've seen it.
You've seen, yeah.
And so I was just like, they're in trouble because and I was like, and I said at halftime, I told some people, I said, look, if Alabama's going to win, I was like, Sears has got to have some help. But it's going to come down to this. I was like, it's going to come down to one of the three. Either, Muhammad Diabate, Jaron Stevenson, Walters, one of those guys has to step up and score the ball. Because I didn't have a lot of faith in Grant Nelson, and he had a burn the tape game. He just doesn't function well. If he doesn't get off to a good start most of the time. Now, he's had a couple games where he got it going in the second half, but a lot of times if he misses some easy ones early, it gets in his head. I just didn't have a lot of faith in him. I was like, these freshmen, one of these guys is going to have to step up, and they have at some points this year. But unfortunately, Stevenson fouls out. He only had one dunk. And then Walters made one big three, but he didn't do a lot. But it was Diabate. And he would, to me, of all the three, he would have been the most unlikely because he's not a great offensive player.
Right.
But, again, it was just the kind of game it was. It was a gritty, grimy game. And I think Bryce Drew, I had picked this game 91-83 Alabama. I thought it would be up and down, up and down, up and down. I thought it would just be a fast game. But I think what Bryce Drew decided to do, and remember, Scott, you've been in these NCAA games with UAH and stuff, you get very little prepreparation. You get like one day.
No, you do.
And so
you don't get a lot.
I think he decided, look, man, I don't want to run with these cats. I don't think we can get in an up and down game. We got to grimy it up. They're not really a grimy. You watch film, you see they're not a grimy team. We've got to slow it down a little bit, get it to our best player, which they did. He had 29.
One off his career high. 30 was his career high.
And so get it to him, and then we just need to use our athleticism. I'll be honest with you, Scott. That Grand Canyon team was as athletic as any Alabama. Now, they wasn't skilled, but they were athletic. And they tried to block everything. I have not seen a team try. They didn't care if it was a goaltend or not.
They were going after the basketball.
Everything. Yeah. And then I didn't think Alabama adjusted real well at times to that because you needed to be going off 2 feet and you needed to be getting it up on the rim. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Because I think at times Alabama went in too soft, and you got to understand. You got to get
early on they did because I didn't think they knew how Grand Canyon was going to play, and so they attacked it later on
in the second half. Even with Estrada, I thought his decision-making wasn't good, and he got blocked a couple of times. Dude, you got to go in all the way with 2 feet, and you got to make sure you get it up on the rim.
It was a grown man's paint, we'll just say that. Yeah.
And if they commit goaltending, hey, go ahead.
Yeah.
But I'm just going to tell you, this is not like they played College of Charleston, who they could just blow by and lay
there was not a lot of defense. College
of Charleston, they didn't have any of these shot blockers.
They were going to run, but they weren't going to play a lot of D.
I know you remember Patrick Ewing back in the day. He used to just block it for the hell of it, like to scare the hell out of it. And that's basically what he and Akeem Olajuwon used to do. Just block everything.
Oh, you were scared to go in there because either your shot was going to get blocked or you were going to get a little contact.
I'm telling you.
Yeah, Grand Canyon was.
I think they totally got in Grant Nelson's head because he had 5'10" guards blocking him.
Let's get our first break in. When we come back, we got to check in with Nate Oates, hear what he had to say. We'll go inside the Alabama locker room as well. We've got other college basketball news and notes. It's the NCAA basketball tournament. Plus, we got to get to your phone calls. Jeremy, we're getting to you, I promise.
You're listening to Talkin' Ball on 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
Traffic still rolling along in pretty good shape this morning. We had an outside fire at the Mazda Toyota plant. Fire and rescue made quick work of getting that one taken care of. And that camera crew that's working on 565 is scheduled to be erecting support at 565 and Mooresville Road today. So that could be a problem for traffic. With more than 30 years experience, D&L Refrigeration can save you money on those heating and air conditioning repair costs. 256-652-1207. State license 08091. Captain Nick in the 72 and Jav Popeyes Skywatch Traffic Center.
AL cert number 21014.
Are those high utility bills driving you crazy this time of year? If they are, Talent Heating and Air has the special for you.
That's right. We're going to run a $49 spring checkup on your system. We're going to come out, we're going to check those heat kits, make sure that everything was working through the winter right, and then we're going to also make sure your Freon's good, make sure that you're ready for the summertime.
How important is that to be done this time of year?
It's really the most important time of the year. We can avoid safety concerns caused by wintertime use, and then we can also make sure that you're ready for the summertime.
And to get ready for the summertime, you just got to call
256-503-4490.
Or you can find them online at
talenthvac.com.
That's Talent Heating and Air. One more time.
256-503-4490.
Talent Heating and Air. Let them save you money.
Hey folks, Bob Baumhauer here. We're extremely proud that Baumhauer's Victory Grill has been serving Alabama for 43 legendary years. Our motto is legendary fun, legendary food, and we strive to make every dining experience a special one for all of our guests. Our menu features delicious, always fresh and scratch-made in-house recipes. And of course, our award-winning wings and sauces. And don't forget, our happy hour and halftime daily specials cannot be beat. Baumhauer's Victory Grill, legendary fun, legendary food.
Situated downtown on Clinton Avenue, you'll find the Church Street family's take on delicious seafood and more. Sea Salt. At Sea Salt, the food speaks for itself. Fresh oysters, shrimp and lobster, and non-seafood fare. Plus a large selection of wines, regional and local beers on tap, and a full bar. Catch the downtown vibe with Sea Salt's unique outdoor city street and patio seating with a view of Jesse Andrews' mural, bringing an underwater world to life. No reservations necessary. Sea Salt, 114 Clinton Avenue.
Not looking or feeling your best? No energy for the things you like to do? Ready to look and feel younger? Make your appointment at Advanced Life Clinic, one of the region's foremost destinations for patients interested in looking and feeling their best. Specializing in advanced laser treatments and weight loss, male and female rejuvenation to offset the effects of aging, and more. See how Advanced Life Clinic can help you enjoy your life again. Call 256-882-6555 or log on advancedlifeclinic.com.
Welcome back, Talking Ball 97.7 ESPN The Zone. And, you know, it's always fun when you find out about certain teams and you find out about everything. Grand Canyon, for those that don't know, is basically the Liberty of the West.
Yeah, based out of Phoenix, yeah.
Privately funded, and they get a lot of money. So much so that for their student section to travel to Spokane, $28 is all a student had to spend, and Grand Canyon gave them a T-shirt, a chartered flight, 2 nights in a hotel, and
a partridge in a pear tree. No, I'm kidding.
just to go to the NCAA tournament game. That's what it costs for a Grand Canyon student to go to
Plus
the game.
The band, they brought the band.
They brought the band, but they also chartered a flight for their students, and it was just $28. It got two
for all of it.
It was a ticket for both games.
Yeah.
So they got the session plus 2 nights in a hotel, plus a T-shirt and everything to go. They did that during the school year as well. It wasn't just an NCAA. They did that for all their games that they did during the school year as well. So they would have a student section basically
at every game.
At every game. That's a little bit. Those are the stories that when you find out about the NCAA tournament, that makes it really kind of fun to listen to. Speaking of listening, here is Nate Oates after the Grand Canyon game last night?
Character win, I think. We had a chance, could have folded it. A lot of things didn't go our way. A lot of foul trouble. They lived at the free throw line. Our guys started to show a little frustration. I thought we pulled it together and showed a lot of mental toughness, and we've been using the word next a lot lately. Next play. Just go to the next play. Like, forget about the call that didn't go your way, forget about the turnover, forget about the offensive possession where you missed or your teammate missed you. It doesn't matter. Just play hard on defense. This is one of our best defensive games of the year. I mean, we fouled too much. They shot 37 free throws. We obviously benefited from them not shooting it great at the line. But, when we didn't foul, we got pretty good stops. I mean, tying Grant Foster's the real deal. But, he scored 29 and went to the free throw line 16 times and took 22 shots. So I thought our guys weren't bad on him. They forced him into a lot of tough shots. Mark, on the other hand, had 26 on 18 shots and only 11 free throws. So, probably a little bit more efficient. But I thought Ryland did a great job on tying. Mo Diabate came in late and was great on both ends. He scored 8 straight points after Jaron fouled out. We needed a boost. His boost he gave us right there, defensively and offensively. Ryland's in foul trouble. Jaron's fouled out. Thought he was great. So we're playing next Thursday. There's only maybe 16 left. I think our non-conference schedule got us ready for this. 4 teams in the non-conference are all in the Sweet 16. And, we lost all 4, but I thought we got better from it. So our defense is getting better as the year goes on. This might have been our best defensive performance of the year. It's been our best for a while. And Wright's will be able to play with us Thursday. He got elbowed in the head, had a head injury. He's had some real bad luck here lately. But, we're going to be playing again, and he can play with us again on Thursday.
There you go. Nate Oates after the Grand Canyon win last night.
Yeah, I hope so. Hope they get Reitzel back. They got to have him to beat Carolina. Carolina would be their biggest win of the year. Coach Oates just mentioned the meat of their schedule. They didn't have a lot of success, and at one time they were 6-5. But they had that stretch where they played in a row. They played Arizona, Sweet 16.
Yep.
Creighton, Sweet 16. Purdue, Sweet 16. All these good teams, and they were all on neutral floors or on the road. And so Alabama played a very difficult schedule, and even the Clemson loss. Clemson, Sweet 16, at home.
And you got Tennessee from the conference, Sweet 16.
And they're in the Sweet 16,
yep.
So both Alabama's losses at home were Sweet 16 teams. They played as difficult a schedule as anyone, so hopefully it prepares them. But a lot of it's going to be how healthy they are, too, and how healthy Reitzel is. And it's going to take their best effort of the year to beat Carolina. Carolina's old. They've got a really good basketball team. They're a much better defensive team, too, than they were a year ago. They have a lot of offensive balance. R.J. Davis and Baycott are their 2 best players. And they're both really, really good. 2 guys that have played as many, games as anybody in the North. I'm sure Baycott's the number 1. RJ's in the top 3 or 4 of games played at Carolina. Then they add a shooter like Cormac Ryan, who absolutely torched Alabama 2 years ago for Notre Dame. People forget that. He was 7 of 8 from the floor, and he hit a bunch of threes, and Notre Dame beat Alabama in the first round, and now he's a sniper for North Carolina. So it's a really good Carolina team, and but I'm going to stick with it. I in my bracket, I had this happening. I had Alabama playing North Carolina, and I had the Tide knocking out North Carolina, and then falling to Arizona in the Elite Eight. I'm not going to change my pick. But if Alabama wins this game, it's got to be an 83-80 type game, Scott. It's got to be up and down, and it can't be grimy and gritty. They're going to have to play much better offensively and continue to guard and rebound like they did in the 2 games. Because I thought for 27 minutes or so they guarded the same way against Charleston, but then they started subbing out. They got up 30 and then kind of lost their intensity a little bit. But I thought it was the best 2-game stretch of defense for Alabama all year. But it's going to take an even better effort, and I understand how talented North Carolina is. But I think Alabama, to give themselves a chance, that's what they're going to have to do, and they're going to have to win. They're going to have to get to 80 this time. That's kind of their magic number, and they're going to have to do that. And Carolina's a really good defensive team, but, hey, man, it's a 1-game deal. You never know. And if Alabama can make 15 threes, then they can win this game. But we'll see. I believe when that's the problem. I believe Auburn gave up 15 threes to Yale, and so that's if you have a shooting game like that, Alabama can still win the game, but it's going to be tough. But certainly Alabama will take their chances.
Let's go out to the phone lines. Jeremy is with us, has been holding. Good morning, Jeremy.
Morning, Jeremy.
Man, I'm good. Look, I've never watched a game and felt like, and the team I'm pulling for win and still felt like we lost. Like I really felt like that watching Alabama last night. I mean, it was hard. There was things that they were doing that you just look at the sideline, and I know a lot of the officiating had a lot to do with it because both sides. I mean, they were missing stuff on both sides, and Alabama, they kind of showed their grit getting through. Yeah, I mean, because after watching the rest of these SEC teams that have been knocked out, they were in the same situations and didn't pull it through, like Yale Auburn. Auburn was in that same situation that Alabama was in last night, but they blew their lead and lost the game. So I just kind of felt like it was a hard fought. It was a hard game to watch, but it was a hard fought win for Alabama. I'm glad they won. But I'm going to ask y'all a question. I don't know if I'm late to the party because I just got a notification on my phone before I called. On LinkedIn, I'm friends with Cornell Williams, and it told me to congratulate him on his new job as the Las Vegas Raiders running back coach.
Yeah, he took that about a month ago, a little over a month ago. He took that job out there in Las Vegas as the running backs coach.
He did.
Yeah.
I want to personally then get on to all the local Birmingham and Huntsville television stations on all the news channels, because why was that not made a bigger deal? I mean, I didn't even know it. I mean, it was just like that was a surprise for me this morning, and I was like very excited because Cornell was a freshman when I was a senior at Etowah.
Right, right.
We got to know each other, and he's a great guy. I mean, and deserves all the success that he gets, man. And I'm just proud. You know, to me, it kind of answers a longing question that a lot of Auburn fans around here had was, why would he leave? Why would he leave? Why did he not want to coach down there? Why didn't he want to stay with Hugh Freeze? I think I'd jump ship and go to the NFL ranks too, because I mean that just seems like that's the popular thing to do with these college coaches now.
Well, and I'll just say, toward the end of the season, and we know Auburn had a rough end. They ended up with their third straight losing season. They didn't win the bowl game. It was pretty much, if you were listening to the insiders and everything, they expected Cornell to leave. Yeah, and the thought was he was going to the NFL, that they thought that he was going to make some changes on his staff and there was going to be some departures. And with Cornell, Cornell never really just said, because we have Brian Matthews on quite a bit, and Brian Matthews kept us abreast of this. He just said, well, what we're hearing is that Cornell Williams is very likely going to try to go to the pro level, and there was going to be a few guys, and we know the offensive coordinator, there was a change. Yeah. That Hugh Freeze was going to try to mold that staff and kind of get the band back together with a lot of his guys from
and he walked into a situation where you could not let Cornell Williams leave that building after the interim head coach. You could not let him leave.
That was Hugh's first hire.
Yes, and it had to be his first hire because of everything that Cornell did to electrify that program as an interim head coach. He had to.
Because they were in a really bad place.
Right. And after year one, I mean, Hugh Freeze was you knew there was going to be changes, and Cornell probably, wanted to test the waters too and see where he could fall in line. All right, Jeremy, thanks for the phone call.
Go ahead, Jeremy.
Does this give him the opportunity after a couple of years? Could you see him coming back to college as a head coach?
Well, I mean, maybe, but it's going to depend. He doesn't have any except for the interim deal at Auburn, he doesn't have any experience. Now, maybe on the FCS level, you could see that. But to be honest with you, if Antonio Pierce has success as the Raiders head coach, I've seen this happen with Freddie Kitchens. And this is actually Carnell's first gig in the NFL because he'd been at IMG and some other places. But if he has some success in the National Football League with no recruiting, I think.
Why would you come back to what college football is now?
Where you don't have to. Where you get you get 3 or 4 months off. I could see Carnell staying in the National Football League because it's like the one they always say. Once you get in the it's they call it, and I'm just saying I've heard other coaches say it's like the mob, but once you get in the family or whatever, you get in the pipeline, you can
you're
stay
well
in the
taken
NFL.
care of.
Because Freddie Kitchens, he's now back in the college game, but he stayed in the NFL for a long time.
Hey, Mike Shula's back in the college game too.
Good luck. That's all I'm saying for South Carolina. Good luck with that.
All right, Jeremy, thanks for the phone call.
Appreciate it.
Yeah,
love the guy as a player, but
let's get a break in when we come back.
As a coach, good Lord.
More.
Don't let him take over play calling.
More college basketball conversation.
Jumbo package.
You're listening to Talkin' Ball on 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
From the Fox 54 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Emily Owen. For this Monday night, expect rain and a few thunderstorms to develop mainly after midnight. We'll see low temperatures fall into the upper 50s for the overnight. We'll keep windy conditions in the forecast as well. We could see wind gusts as high as 45 miles per hour. Heading into your Tuesday, rain and a few thunderstorms going to be possible. High temperatures topping out in the upper 60s for the afternoon. I'm Fox 54 meteorologist Emily Owen on your home for ESPN Radio 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
Still working with a clean slate this morning. Traffic at a heavy level, lots of wind to deal with, especially a problem if you're in a bigger vehicle. Just be careful on that trip in. Had a report of an outside fire at the Mazda Toyota plant on Greenbrier Parkway. Fire and rescue made quick work of that one, and we're looking for the camera crew, the traffic camera crew, to be working around 565 and Mooresville Road today. Dr. Sandman has the Somnodent, a safe, insurance-approved alternative for snoring and sleep apnea. Dr. Randall Sandlin, 350-CARE. Captain Eck in the North Parkway Popeyes Skywatch Traffic Center.
By now, you know about Eagle Masonry and Insulation, and maybe you know that Eagle also does landscaping and dirt work. But how about after paint work? Shower doors, shelving, and mirrors, all taken care of by Eagle, the same Eagle that takes care of all your masonry, insulation, and landscaping needs. Eagle brings the same level of expertise to all these disciplines, and they're ready to provide you with a free quote. The website is the same, insulatewitheagle.com, as is the phone number, 256-755-1556. Give them a call and see what Eagle can do for you. Eagle saves you time. Eagle saves you money.
Specializing in simple and affordable rentals, McCurry Van and Car Rental can make sure you have just the right vehicle for your next family vacation, weekend getaway, or if you just need transportation while your vehicle is being repaired. McCurry carries Ford Transit vans and Mercedes Sprinter vans, trucks and work vans, and more. And they offer discounted rental rates for long-term rentals. Now with 4 locations: Athens, Muscle Shoals, Coleman, and Huntsville. Log on McCurryRentals.com to make your reservation now. That's McCurryRentals.com.
Drivers who switch and save with Progressive could save hundreds, which could be life-changing. I mean, you could put that money towards that zero-turn lawnmower you've always wanted. And after using its edge-shaping technology to meticulously sculpt the face of the Mona Lisa into your grass, you'll become the undisputed king of Saturday morning lawn care, leaving your neighbor and sworn enemy Gary to question his place in the delicate neighborhood ecosystem. And it's all because you could save money switching at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, not available in all states.
Tired of the same old menu options everywhere you go? Then you need to try Metro Diner in Huntsville and Madison. The award-winning Metro Diner serves up signature dishes like their Charleston shrimp and grits, famous fried chicken and waffles with strawberry butter, and lots more. Their entire menu is available anytime, breakfast, lunch, or dinner. And stop by for brunch on Saturday or Sunday and enjoy the lowest price mimosas in town. Airport Road, Huntsville, and Highway 72 in Madison. In diner or at home, make it Metro Diner.
All right, welcome back. Talking Ball 97.7 ESPN, The Zone. Boy, Greg Sankey took a bath this weekend, did he not?
Yeah, because the changes he's trying to make to the NCAA tournament, which I don't Sankey's done a great job, but I'm not in favor of changing much, if anything, with the NCAA tournament.
Boy, every time someone could take a shot at Greg Sankey this weekend, boy, oh boy, they did not hesitate in doing so.
Well, and then the SEC didn't have the greatest weekend. I mean,
no,
they
4-5, I think is
5-6.
5-6, yeah.
And the SEC had it was the most ever, 8 teams, and the Big 12 and the SEC had 8. But then you saw Auburn get upset early. You saw Florida gag. I mean, they lose 102-100 to Colorado, and Colorado's good. I mean, Colorado nearly beat Marquette. I mean, that was one of the better round of 32 games,
Right.
But it's just one of those things. The SEC did not have a good run. I mean, think about it. If Alabama and Tennessee had lost, and both of them had to fight it out in the round of 32 to survive, then you don't get anybody through, and then my bracket would be blown to bits.
Yeah.
But Tennessee found a way to win. They survived. And then Alabama, it was ugly. It was not pretty, but it's a win. And
should that take away from the conference's regular season image?
No, I just think.
Because we said that about the Big Ten last year. Remember the Big Ten was, and the Big 12 over the last couple of years, we've sat here and said, oh, they're the best conferences in college basketball. They got the most teams in. And the Big Ten has not won since Michigan State back in the day.
It's a match. It's all about matchups, man. And because I think Alabama got a good draw. I mean, because Alabama, it was well documented. They came in losing 4 out of 6. They didn't look good in the SEC tournament, and so a lot of people were worried about them. But they got I told you, I thought they got a good draw. And then part of that was based upon, St. Mary's losing to Grand Canyon, which did happen. And see, then Grand Canyon kind of tried to play like St. Mary's, but again, Alabama hung around, and then Muhammad Diabate made some plays, and they were able to survive. I mean, a lot of times it's not about how pretty you look in the NCAA tournament, man. It's just about survival.
Because Tennessee's Dalton Knecht did not shoot the ball well in their
18.
Yeah, did not shoot the ball well. Tennessee still finds a way to get a win.
I think he was 1 for 8 from 3. I mean, he just did not have a good game.
Right.
And then as a team, Tennessee shot 3 of 25. From the 3-point line, but they found a way to beat Texas, and Texas was ugly in both their games. They won an ugly game in the round of 64, and then against, I believe it was Colorado State, and then they turn around and nearly beat Tennessee. But I thought Tennessee would win that game more comfortably. But again, it's not about how it looks; it's about, did you survive? The only thing that with Alabama right now that's a little bit is Reitzel. Because you got to have, because they're going to need all hands on deck against North Carolina. I mean, it's North Carolina.
Well, the good news is you have until Thursday. He is probably going to be reevaluated today. He was probably reevaluated last night as well.
Yeah.
And he's going to be reevaluated today. He'll be gone through and precautionary stuff maybe on Monday. The good news is Alabama does not play till Thursday. So he does have a few days to get better, and I would doubt he practices much, if not any, until maybe the shoot around or goes through much. I imagine if they're going to hold him out.
He didn't even go through the shoot around before Grand Canyon because of the nose.
Right.
So it'll be, they're going to definitely reevaluate him, and hopefully, I would think Nate Oates said what he said in the press conference because he met with Clark, the trainer, and they were telling him, okay, I think he's going to be okay, but, we'll see. You never know with that kind of situation.
Yeah,
and here's the thing that made it tough.
They're not going to put him out on the floor if he's – they're going to take everything they can. There's so many tests and procedures that they go through. If he's out on the floor, trust me, he will be cleared from all
Here's
vantage
where
points.
Alabama was up against it even more than they were in the regular season, though, because you mentioned to the listeners that he missed the couple weeks in the regular season. But here's where they were really hurting last night. Davin Cosby, who'd been his backup, basically is out with a foot injury, and he wasn't available. And see, when they didn't have Reitzel say up at Ole Miss, Davin Cosby came off the bench, hit 5 threes, and they still beat Ole Miss and ran them out of the gym. And Davin he's not a great defender, but he's a really good fit for their offensive system because if he's open, he can knock it down. He can knock down some threes. And Alabama struggled from the 3-point line last night, except for Sears. Sears did a pretty nice job. but they didn't have Cosby available, and they very likely won't have him available against North Carolina. So that's why it's so critical to get Reitzel back, to give them some balance and to help Sears, who Sears was easily the MVP of the weekend. Now, Diobati was the unsung hero and the MVP last night, but Sears, he had 30 in game one, had 26 last night. He's just been tremendous. I mean, he's an All-American. There's no question about it, and they're going to continue to need him to play at that level, but he's going to need some help.
All right, 744-256-576-4977. That's the number to the phone lines. You can join the conversation this morning. Again, 256-576-4977. We do got to get a break in. When we come back, we'll wrap up hour one. We'll run down the Sweet 16 times coming into Thursday and Friday. And plus, we'll check in with the Alabama locker room as well after they are into their Sweet 16 for the, third time in 4 years, looking to get to their second ever Elite Eight in program history. We'll break it all down when we return.
You're listening to Talkin' Ball on 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
565 eastbound traffic's beginning to stack up a bit about Glen Hearn right there in the curve. I haven't heard of an accident in that area, but it's definitely slowing down coming through there. Everything else looks good this morning. You be careful on your ride in. Officers, construction workers, and first responders put their lives on the line every time they step on the roadway. Why not make it safer for them? Slow down or move over. It's the law. Captain Nick in the 72 and Jeff Popeye Skywatch Traffic Center.
The countdown to opening day is on, and the Atlanta Braves radio network is bringing you the biggest coverage from Florida as we gear up for the 2024 season. The Braves open the season Thursday the 28th on the road in Philadelphia as the hunt for a 7th straight division title begins. Then it's an epic home opener on Friday, April 5th against the Arizona Diamondbacks as Truist Park comes alive for Braves baseball.
Looking for your next game day party destination? Well, think outside the box and kick back at Flow Supreme Air. And you may be thinking, isn't that the trampoline place? Of course it is. But it's also the one-stop spot for all things fun. And if kicking back with the boys to watch the game is your jam, then you're in the right spot. Jump or not, Flow tends to all ages, meaning while you sit back and watch the game, but little Jimmy's having the time of his life perfecting that front flip he most definitely wants to show you. You got this, Jimmy. So next time you think Flow, think fun for everyone.
When you call most roofing companies, all you'll hear is, you need a new roof. Not when you call Fleming. At Fleming Roofing and Restoration, we're focused on your needs, whether it's an easy repair or a full roof replacement. Folks around here have trusted Fleming since 1965 for all their residential and commercial roofing needs. And as the area's storm damage experts, Fleming knows all the ins and outs of the insurance claims process. Log on FlemingHSV.com to schedule your free estimate today. Fleming Roofing and Restoration. We show up.
The kitchen is the heart of any home. It's where the family gathers. It's where kids discover old recipes and make them their own. Just starting out or just now getting started on the dream kitchen you've always wanted?
I'm Chris Haygood, and from all of us here at Bob Wallace Appliance to the home builders and the homeowners of the Huntsville area, a heartfelt thank you for buying local. We're in Huntsville, Florence, and Coleman, and online at bobwallaceappliance.com.
Tom Luganbill here for my friends at Woody Anderson Ford. Bobby White and his team take great pride in their service department, and you can see it the moment you walk into those beautiful new service lanes. And just like a championship team, they all work together to make sure your experience is second to none, whether you drive a Ford or not. Also, check out the gold certified pre-owned inventory at Woody Anderson Ford for great deals every day. Stop by and see them at Jordan and Sparkman or at Woody Anderson of Madison on Hughes Road, or visit WoodyAndersonFord.com.
Welcome back. Talking Ball 97.7 ESPN The Zone. Scott Tyson, Drew DeArmond on a Monday morning. We're live from Bill Penny Toyota, sitting out here in the service department. And don't forget to head over and check out the 97.7 ESPN The Zone Bracket Challenge presented by Talent Heating and Air. Mongo is leading that is straight out of Blazing Saddles right there.
Or Steve Mongo McMichael, prayers to him, but he did get elected to the Hall of Fame. I know we know he's got ALS,
Yep.
been going through a lot.
500 points there. Strawberry, there's a bunch of people sitting at there at number 2, but Talent Heating and Air, kind enough to help us out with that. And by the way, if you are looking for a job, Talent Heating and Air needs some talent.
Oh, okay.
They do. They do.
I can't wait for this commercial. This ought to be good.
We don't have a commercial for it. I'm just letting you know.
Oh, okay.
256-503-4490. Seriously, if you need a job now, installers benefits plus monthly bonuses.
Right.
Okay. Talent Heating and Air. Be a part of the team. 256-503-4490. They seriously need some people. So if you know someone that is looking for employment, Talent Heating and Air, I mean, why not? Then you can come in and you can be a part of some of the greatest commercials ever made.
With the air horn. Save you some money.
You can come in and be a part of some of the greatest commercials.
You can make you some money. That's what you ought to do. You ought to just remake the commercial.
Oh, big sexy.
Oh, Lord.
Bringing it back.
How many times did we get messages? I almost ran off the road.
Let's go out to Richard real fast. Good morning, Richard.
Morning, Richard.
Well, hey, morning, guys. Yeah, I mean, great win. I won't say a great game, but a great win last night for Alabama.
Yeah, you just want to survive, man. I mean, it wasn't a work of art, but you'll take it any day if your team survives and advances.
That's it. One thing on Mo Diabate is he's a Muslim and basically it's Ramadan.
Yeah, that's right.
So basically no food.
Yeah, him and Wagi both.
Until after dark.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
yeah, because the other day when they won in the first round, they were waiting. They waited to eat till 7:05 because they just they were fasting. And so they had to wait till Alabama's game didn't end until after nightfall, and probably a bunch of the same thing last night because the game.
Yeah.
I mean, it started a little later, but still.
Yeah, not much later. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Diabate and Wagi both. So, kind of unique. I'm sure they probably get up. I don't know enough about it. But, maybe before sundown. I'm sure. They probably have something done. 4 or 5 a.m. or something fixed to. Try to hold you over. I know Scott wouldn't make it. So.
Well, and I guarantee you, I mean, yeah, it would be tough. It would be very tough. But the good thing is college athletes like that, they are afforded the nutritionists. They are afforded a very good plan. And I guarantee you they had a lot of proteins. They had a lot of stuff that was going to carry you through the day.
Drew, were you surprised about Michigan Tire in basketball and not going to Louisville and the fellow down at Florida Atlantic?
Yeah, Dusty May.
Not too much, Richard, because I'll just be honest with you. Jeff Goodman, who I respect a lot, who's very well connected in basketball, he thought before they went on the hot streak and really made the NCAA tournament that Dusty was going to end up at Ohio State, and he was hearing that Ohio State was going to target him, but then they elevated the interim and the head coach to head coach, and so that kind of took them off the board. But if you had told me, and it turns out according to the insiders that Dusty May had he could have took 3 jobs. He could have took Louisville, he could have took Michigan or Vanderbilt. They all talked to him. And for a few
Vanderbilt
days
made a heck of an offer, by the way. Vanderbilt put together a heck of a package to try to get Dusty May.
They did, and so and for a couple of days, Louisville thought they had him, but the problem is
I thought Louisville had set up for a press conference.
Yeah, so and I think they were thinking it was nearly done, but then Michigan kept just plugging away. And when you look at his lineage, he's a manager under Bob Knight. He went to Indiana. He's really he's a Big Ten guy, and I think he was a better fit at Michigan. And I think it was a good hire for them. Now it's going to be interesting to see what happens at Louisville The hot name coming out of the weekend was interesting. Was Shaheen Holloway? Who's
that's what I heard.
Seton Hall. Yeah. Go ahead, Richard. Did we lose Richard? Well,
yes, Shaheen.
I had just heard that that Shaheen was the hot name. He's only been at Seton Hall a couple years, and it's his alma mater in the Big East. But again, they were on one of the last 4 out of the tournament. They don't have the resources that Louisville has, so we'll see. That would be a very interesting move. But I think the thing with Louisville is they've been turned down by their top 2 guys. They got turned down by Scott Drew first because I think they had turned up the heat on him at Baylor.
Right, they did.
And then they thought they had Dusty May, and then it didn't work. And so it'll be interesting to see in the coming days what happens with Louisville because DeVries left Drake. You're very familiar
Jared
with
DeVries left,
Jared
yes.
DeVries left Drake to go to West Virginia.
Yes.
And I listened to a podcast of a connected guy on Saturday night, and he said very likely that Jared DeVries, if he didn't end up at Vanderbilt, would end up at West Virginia by sometime on Sunday, and that's what happened.
Yeah, what is going on with Louisville, though? I mean, what is going on there that they can't get?
Well, it's
a
different type of place, man. I mean, they have resources and everything,
They do.
But I mean, and there was even some thought with Dusty May, like how would he deal with people in the same way with Shaheen Holloway? Because
is there too many hands in the cookie jar?
Well, I mean, Rick Pitino did a great job there, but there's only so many Rick Pitinos,
right?
And and Louisville still is when you have everything aligned. It's a top 10 job in the country, but I think they have to have the perfect guy. Because I'll be honest, I'm still kind of stunned that Chris Mack flamed out there. And I don't know what's happened. I would have thought that he would have already been named the Vanderbilt coach, but then Vanderbilt, I guess, figured out they had and as everybody has said, you could even argue that Dusty May, if he hadn't gone to Michigan, would have gone to Vanderbilt. They made a really heavy run.
Oh, they did. They made a big-time run at Dusty May.
It's going to be really interesting, though, to see if Vanderbilt is still involved with Chris Mack and what happens there, because I still think he would be a good fit at Vandy. We'll see, and then – and then some other, coaching searches to follow. It really sounds like Schertz is going to end up at St. Louis if he doesn't end up at Vanderbilt. He's another one to watch for the Vandy job. But you got to understand too, Indiana State's still in the NIT. They're still playing.
Yeah.
And so I don't think he'll be back in Indiana State. But where is he going to wind up is the big question.
After watching Grand Canyon play last night, do you think Vanderbilt regrets letting Bryce Drew get away, or letting him go after what they did?
I don't really think so. I will say I think maybe Vanderbilt's administration and AD at the time maybe pulled the plug too quick. But but Bryce also made some mistakes. I think he's still relatively a young head coach. I think he's in a good spot at Grand Canyon. He needs to keep growing. He did a good job replacing his dad at Valpo, and he was recruiting well at Vandy. But I don't know, man. I just think overall, I think Vandy needs to make the right hire, and I still think if they do, they can be good. And I think they made the right move, making the change with Stackhouse, but. My problem with Vanderbilt is it's not really, it's still the administration. It's still the athletic director, the athletic administration. I think that they do have a new president who I think is more athletically inclined.
Yes.
But, Candace Story-Lee, we know her well, but her job may be on the line here, needing to fix this men's basketball program.
All right, that's hour one in the books here of Talking Ball. Again, we're live from Bill Penny Toyota on a Monday morning. Travis Reier is going to join us. We'll talk about Alabama's trip to the Sweet 16 and maybe get in some baseball, softball, football. You never know.
This is Brent Musburger's VSiN Action Update on 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
Unlike other credit cards that decline sports betting transactions or treat them as a cash advance, the G-Bank Visa Signature Card can load directly to your favorite sportsbook apps. G.bank/VSiN.
Men's Hoops Sweet 16 on Friday. South Region 2nd seed Marquette by 6.5 against 11th seed NC State. Top seed Purdue favored by 4.5 against 5th seed Gonzaga in the Midwest Regional. Houston by 3.5 against 4th seed Duke. Houston the top seed in the South Region. Midwest Regional 2nd seed Tennessee by 2.5 against 3rd seed Creighton. Connecticut's the betting favorite to win the national title at plus 220. Houston plus 600. Purdue plus 650. Arizona plus 1,000. Women's Hoops tonight, second round. Top overall seed Iowa by 15.5 against 8th seed West Virginia. Get the latest lines and more at vsin.com.
WZZN, Union Grove, Huntsville, Alabama. 97.7 ESPN The Zone. Welcome to Talkin' Ball with Scott Tyson and Drew DeArmond. Call into the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline now, 256-576-4977. That's 256-576-4977. Now, here's Scott and Drew.
It is hour number 2 of Talking Ball, 97.7 ESPN The Zone. Scott Tyson, Drew DeArmond. Of course, we are hanging out, and I mean literally just hanging out, sitting in our comfortable chairs here at Bill Penny Toyota in the service department. Their doors have been open for an hour as well. It's always nice when they open their doors right when we start our show. Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., and then on Saturday, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., they can take care of your needs. And don't forget, if your car is in here for a while, they call it reliability, versatility, rentability. You can rent a Toyota for just a few hours if you need to jot about town and get some of those errands done. If it's longer than that, if your car is in here for a few days, well, you can just turn that into a long-term rental as well, and they give you great rates. And then you can always go over to the showroom, check out some of them shiny new Toyotas, test drive one, put your name in a hat to win $5,000. So Bill Penny Toyota, and that's where we're at on a Monday. We also, always on a Monday, visit with our good friend Travis Reier.
Yeah, he's the longtime senior analyst since 2003 at BamaOnline.com. They are part of On3Sports.com. Also does a great job with their YouTube channel, and it's a busy time of year for Bama Online because you've got of course, spring football rolling at the University of Alabama, the first spring under Kalen DeBoer. Recruiting, which has really been going well for the Tide, had another good weekend on the recruiting trail. And, of course, March Madness. This weekend you had both the men and the women playing almost at the same time. The women had a good run, lost a hard-fought game by 11 to the University of Texas on the road. In the round of 32, but I thought Christy Curry's team had a really good year, got a good win over Florida State. We know what the men did going to back-to-back Sweet 16s, and now you have baseball and softball as well. Both had, kind of rough weekends. Alabama's softball team gets a split over a good Virginia Tech program, lost an extra inning game in Game 2 after winning a 1-0 Game 1. And then baseball, how tough is the SEC? They ended up getting swept at Georgia. It was 3 tough games. They competed well in all of them. Didn't have the greatest weekend on the mound, and now they will be in the Rocket City tomorrow. We're going to talk about all that and more with our next guest, Travis Reier, who's been kind enough to join us on the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline. Travis, you're with Drew and Scott. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir. It's great to have you back. Not a work of art in Alabama's round of 32 game against Grand Canyon, but they'll take it. It's survive and advance, especially with how you saw Auburn's season end and Florida's. You'll take any day of the week a survive and advance game. Probably the grimiest, grittiest win of the season for Alabama. And sometimes in March, guys come of age. And as I kind of tweeted or posted on my X account, it's almost like we're seeing maybe another Herb Jones come of age with Muhammad Diabate, but Alabama survives, Travis.
They did, and absolutely, it didn't look good. They were down 3 with about 6 to go, and that game had the feel of totally turning towards Grand Canyon down the stretch. And Diabate comes off the bench, due in large part because Jaron Stevenson fouls out, proceeds to score 8 straight points, gets after it, had a great block on a dunk attempt, and just really lifted that team up. I mean, you heard Mark Steer say it in the postgame. He felt like Diabate won the game for Alabama with what he gave them there in the final 5 minutes. But defensively, to do what they were able to do to shut out GCU there in the final 4 or 5 minutes, obviously huge, and just enough to get by and get to L.A.
Yeah, and it was a game that was, it was physical. It was one of those strange games that you see in the tournament.
There's letting them play, and then there's whatever that was last night.
Yeah.
Although I think Alabama may have felt like they didn't always get the even end of the whistle when it happened on the defensive end of the floor for them. But you're right, it was absolutely physical. It was a game that if you were going to finish at the rim, you were going to earn it. And even with the free throw disparity, Alabama able to get the job done. But that's thanks in part to Grand Canyon kind of looking like retro Bama from the free throw line, going 23 of 37. And Nate talked about it too. It just sometimes seemed almost panicky, Alabama on the defensive end, fouling jump shooters. Couple technicals didn't help, obviously, in that regard. I don't really blame Nate for his there when he got it, but that's going to play into that. And Alabama makes just 8 threes, but when you talk again about the defensive end and Grand Canyon going just 2 of 20 from the stripe, that's huge. And Tyon Grant Foster's an absolute beast. There's no doubt about it. But he didn't have a great night from the line, still finished with 29, but he needed 22 shots to get there. So a little more efficient for Alabama. It wasn't pretty in any form or fashion. I think it'll be a different kind of game against North Carolina in the 16. Not that it's a favorable matchup for Alabama, but freedom of movement, I think, might be something that you have a little more to work with on the offensive end.
Yeah, and people made reference to the fact that the officiating crew, one of those guys had been in the game against Purdue in Toronto, and then had already popped Nate Oates with a technical, and I'm sure he was the one that popped Coach Oates early. But I think Nate was also kind of trying to send a message because pretty much from the jump, the officiating was very inconsistent. But I thought Alabama showed a lot of mental toughness, and it was. And I'll be honest, it was the grimiest, grittiest game they played all year, and I didn't know if they had it in them. And because it's just been a different type of season for Alabama, and then and you felt like at halftime, Travis, because that's when you found out Reitzel toward the end of the half was not going to be back. You knew somebody was going to have to try to take the pressure off of Sears. Reitzel did a lot of that in the round of 64 game when they routed College of Charleston, but somebody else was going to have to step up. And I said Diabate was in that group. I never would have thought it would have been him, though, especially the fact that, and it just goes to show you how unpredictable March is. Auburn down the stretch in their loss to Yale did not convert from the free throw line. Mo Diabate makes 3 straight, and he shoots 43% in the regular season. But it's March. It's just, that's why it's the greatest. To me, it's the greatest event in sports because it's so unpredictable.
It is. Yeah, and Mo absolutely wasn't sterling in terms of his free throw percentage going into that game. So as a part of that closeout, that was very, very impressive for him. And, I thought Nick Pringle, giving him 25 minutes on a night when you only got 17 minutes from Grant, and he gives you just 3 points and a rebound and 4 fouls was huge too. I mean, Nick, it isn't always pretty with him either, and you don't always know what you're going to get with Nick, literally day to day, it seems like. But 25 big minutes, those 9 boards, couple block shots, it was not for the faint of heart in the paint last night. So you had to have some type of presence, and it certainly wasn't Charles Bediako-like, but it was enough.
It was, and I thought he was also did a really nice job offensively. He had the dunk late, but he also did a good job in the middle of the offense, making reads and hitting guys and hitting cutters. I thought, Nick, if you talked about all-around games for Pringle, I thought it may have been his best at the most crucial time.
Yeah, given the setting, it'd be hard to argue too much with that. And he does. I mean, at the top of that offense, it looks easy, I'm sure, to a lot of folks, but the way teams play under and over and the handoffs and those type of things and initiating the offense a lot of times, he's come a long way in that regard.
Now the question is, and Nate Oates kind of alluded to it, kind of hoped for it, I guess, afterwards, is you got a matchup with North Carolina next, but you really would like Latrell Wrightsold to be on the floor for that game on Thursday.
You would. It's just been tough for him. You hate it for Latrell, first and foremost, because, any type of injuries to the head are not something you ever want to see in any sport. But then also kind of, the track he was on before the initial concussion. So it's been tough for him. A little bit of a bounce back, it seemed like, that was coming. And then, that unfortunate situation last night with him. And it was interesting to hear, Nate talk about that, expect him to be able to play not only in the next round, but, the next round's on a Thursday night, and you played late Sunday. So I took that as a real positive. I guess we'll see how it plays out throughout the week.
Yeah, and what are your initial thoughts on the matchup with Carolina? I mean, they certainly are talented. They're old. And then, as we said, they've got, Cormac Ryan, who really people kind of forget torched Alabama at Notre Dame a couple of years ago. This is a tough matchup for the Tide.
Yeah, it feels kind of Florida-ish a little bit in some ways, which is a little bit concerning because, Carolina can do some of the same type of things and can present some of the same type of challenges, and that was the real problem for Alabama the last couple of times that the Crimson Tide saw the Gators. So, it should be an entertaining game. Should be much more aesthetically pleasing than last night was. I don't see a rock fight along the lines of last night coming up in LA on Thursday night. And, they had a hell of a matchup. It was a couple of years ago, I guess, and out in Portland, right? In the Nike event that just seemed to go on and on and on. So looking forward to it. You're right. Carolina is not only talented and skilled, but old with Baycock there in the middle. That's an obvious concern for Alabama. But, you get to this point, you take your shot and see what happens.
Yeah, and wow. I mean, just credit to Nate Oates again. I mean, I don't know how much more we can give him praise for, because he just keeps doing it. But, again, Alabama back into the Sweet 16, third time in 4 years. What Nate Oates has done, and, yes, he just recently got his contract extended, it's amazing, and especially after losing what he lost last year off this team.
Seems like a lot of value, no doubt about it. We've talked about that in relation to football a lot in the last 15 years or so with Alabama, but I think that's what they're getting, even with this recent pretty significant bump and everything else that's in play for Nate. He's absolutely deserving. It's always a great thing to be playing on that second weekend, and he's kind of returning Alabama to becoming more of a fixture in that regard. And it's not only that they win games, it's that they're fun to watch. You don't have to be a basketball hardcore to enjoy watching Alabama basketball. Now, if you're a defensive kind of hardcore, it may be tough this year, but it's also a very entertaining brand of hoops.
Yeah, it really is. And speaking of entertaining, in a good year, it was a tough draw for Alabama's ladies going to Austin, Texas, but I thought they competed well against the Longhorns yesterday. And then if you had told me that Sarah Ashley Barker would foul out and only score 6 points, I would have thought they would have had a lot of trouble against Florida State. But, Carly Weathers, Essence Cody, they had a lot of young ladies step up. Loyal McQueen. Of course, Nye made a huge shot, and she's had a great year. But overall, I thought another nice step in the right direction for Christy Curry. And this is been a total work in progress. She took over a program that had not had a lot of success, but they got a lot of young ladies returning. The recruiting seems to be going better, Travis. Overall, I thought a really solid year for the ladies.
It was. I mean, you win 24 games. That's a good year. And I know their non-con wasn't especially tough, but they more than validated themselves in conference play, and then also in the NCAA tournament, I thought, with the win over Florida State. And as you said, competing very impressively against a home team in Texas. You got Kevin Durant in the stands yesterday in Austin. And, Vic Schaefer teams, as we saw when he was at Mississippi State, now he's at Texas. It's going to be tough. Defensively is where, his teams have always hung their hat. So you expected the kind of game that maybe stylistically wouldn't benefit Alabama. Sort of played out that way, but you said it, kind of like the men's game. The toughness in a situation like that I thought was pretty evident. I think that with Weathers and Cody, especially, as you mentioned, a couple of young players, maybe most encouraging was the improvement we saw from them late in the season. And so that would seem to bode well for the future. And this is a staff, Christy and Kelly and the rest of that staff, that they've done a nice job in the portal. I mean, you look at S.A. Barker, you look at Nye, they've done some really good work in this portal era, and I would expect that to continue.
Tough weekend for Alabama baseball against Georgia.
It was, and it was just kind of a reaffirmation that it's literally a weekend-to-weekend league. You can be on top of the mountain one weekend and win 2 out of 3 against a top 5 team in Tennessee and go on the road and, get swept. And really a matter of 36 hours between Saturday and Sunday. And it just felt like, those 2 games on Saturday where Alabama had great chances to go ahead and win the doubleheader, really. It's just it's that thin line in SEC baseball. And it's not just the Floridas and the LSUs and the Tennessees. Every weekend it's like this. And so, I'm sure Rob Vaughn already knew it. There's other things that you probably don't like about the weekend as much as even maybe the losses, because it's still early, but the pitching injury you sustained there now, that's another big one potentially. You still got so much baseball in this SEC season to go, and so much can happen, as we were reminded in Athens over the weekend.
Yeah, no doubt. They're headed to Huntsville this week to play Belmont. They'll be in the Rocket City tomorrow for the second straight year. They beat Middle Tennessee last year. And then football-wise, Alabama continued work toward A-Day on April the 13th, the first year for Kalen DeBoer. But the recruiting trail continuing to be fruitful. Eight commitments right now, but 6 in the month of March. Things looking positive for Kalen DeBoer right now.
It really is. I know there were concerns about recruiting prowess coming from the West Coast and the Pacific Northwest, but initially anyway, those have been answered pretty well, I think. Luke Metz, the linebacker from the Northwest Atlanta area, yesterday becoming the latest commitment to Alabama. Really had a run on linebackers here lately. Abdul Sanders from the West Coast. You think about Duke Johnson from the state of Georgia as well. There's been more of a lean on that here in the last week or two, but it seems like they continue to make really nice inroads on the recruiting trail. It is a staff that is veteran heavy when it comes to different areas, kind of a melding, it feels like, of West and East and Southeast with what Kalen has done in the past, and a lot of his staff and support staff even. When you think about it from that perspective, and kind of just bringing all that together with what you already have to work with the brand that is, Alabama football. They're not standing still at all. They're not standing pat. They're jumping right in and getting the job done.
No doubt. Well, speaking of getting the job done, you always do, Travis. We appreciate the time. Great job catching us up on Alabama athletics. Let everybody know about how to connect with you guys at BamaOnline.com. It's going to be another busy week, a lot going on.
Absolutely. BamaOnline.com. Come hang out with us on the round table. That's where you're going to find Tim Watts, Andrew Bone, Joseph Hastings, Clint Lamb, Charlie Potter, Jimmy Stein. Also check out our YouTube channel for BamaOnline.com, programming pretty much every day there on the YouTube home for BOL. Coming up later this morning, I'll be joined by Tim Watts, Andrew Bone, and Jimmy Stein to recap a busy weekend, both in terms of Alabama football, Alabama basketball, baseball, recruiting, all of that we'll have for you coming up in a little bit.
It's not a busy time at all, is it?
No. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Travis. Let's get a break in. More Talking Ball live from Bill Penny Toyota.
You're listening to Talkin' Ball on 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
Got a wreck coming in Morgan County. This one's Thompson Road, east of John D. Long. Got a vehicle that's hit a utility pole. The pole's down, lines are down, and there's injury there. 72 in Nance has got a report of eastbound blockage, no injury reported. Another one in Decatur, 6th and Market's coming in as a no injury. And we've still got to slow down eastbound on 565 right around Glen Hearn. I don't see a problem in the area. Traffic's just stacking up there. You could win a 2024 Jeep Compass at the 40th Annual Bloomin' Festival Art and Craft Fair, April 21st and 22nd, adjacent to Ave Maria Grotto in Coleman. Over 180 artists and craftsmen, great food, music, and much more. Captain Nick in the 72 and Jeff Popeye Skywatch Traffic Center.
AL cert number 21014.
Are those high utility bills driving you crazy this time of year? If they are, Talent Heating and Air has the special for you.
That's right. We're going to run a $49 spring checkup on your system. We're going to come out, we're going to check those heat kits, make sure that everything was working through the winter right, and then we're going to also make sure your Freon's good, make sure that you're ready for the summertime.
How important is that to be done this time of year?
It's really the most important time of the year. We can avoid safety concerns caused by wintertime use, and then we can also make sure that you're ready for the summertime.
And to get ready for the summertime, you just got to call
256-503-4490.
Or you can find them online at
talenthvac.com.
That's Talent Heating and Air. One more time.
256-503-4490.
Talent Heating and Air. Let them save you money.
Football season and Bad Daddy's Burger Bar. The perfect combination of good times and great food. This season, score big with one of our chef-inspired expressions of pure burger amazingness. Our delicious burgers are made with premium Angus beef, and you can pair it with one of our signature cocktails or a cold craft beer from our huge selection. Bad Daddy's Burger Bar on the Parkway in Huntsville and our new location at Cliff Farm, Highway 72 in Madison.
No representation is made that the quality of legal services to be performed is greater than the quality of legal services performed by other lawyers.
A wise man once said, "If you take care of old folks and children, everything in the middle will take care of itself."
Hi, I'm Danny Aldridge, lawyer in Alabama and Tennessee. In the next 20 years, the number of those folks over 65 years of age will more than double. In our golden years, the most important goal is to be treated with dignity and have control over doing what makes you grateful with those you love. At the Aldridge Law Firm and the Legal Town Center, we're dedicated to help you with these goals, and we'll be there when life throws you those inevitable curveballs. Let us assist you with your legal needs, whatever they may be or become. You may reach us by phone at 256-534-3188 or online with Dan at danaldridgelaw.com. Just remember, we're here to help. Whether it's personal injury, wrongful death, fraud and cheat, or estate planning made complete, we're here to help.
What's happening? What's happening?
All right, welcome back. Talking Ball 97.7 ESPN The Zone. Scott Tyson, Drew DeArmond with you on a Monday morning. And we have been recapping the NCAA tournament from the first full weekend. 16 teams remain. Alabama, one of those 16 teams. What does it mean to get to the Sweet 16? Aaron Estrada, Grant Nelson, Mark Sears help us out.
I can't even explain it. It's crazy. My first NCAA tournament, and we're going to the Sweet 16, so I'm just happy. I'm celebrating. Everybody's happy. So
it means everything. I've never been in this position, and just seeing everyone so happy. I'm happy myself, but we're not done yet, and we're ready for the next game.
Sweet 16 that we played, we didn't have the outcome we wanted in those 4 games, but those 4 games prepared us for this moment tonight.
It was Aaron Estrada first, Grant Nelson, and Mark Sears inside the Alabama locker room after their win last night against Grand Canyon, a win that'll see Alabama advance to the Sweet 16. By the way, in case you are keeping track, in the East bracket, your Sweet 16 seeds are 1, 2, 3, and 5. The West will see the 1, 2, 4, 6. The South, 1, 2, 4, and 11. And the Midwest, 1, 2, 3, and 5. So if you wanted chaos within the brackets, you're not getting it because you've got plenty of 1s, plenty of 2s, 3s, and 4s still alive in this year's tournament. If you reassess the top 16, who do you like right now of the 16 remaining going forward?
I like my Final Four. Houston, Connecticut, Tennessee, and Arizona. That's who I like.
Neither one of all those 4 teams left you feeling pretty good after that first full weekend,
alive.
I should say. Yeah, they're still alive.
Okay. And I've got Houston beating Connecticut, so we'll see. I know Houston's a little banged up, but that's who I picked, and I'm going to roll with it. I'm not changing.
Yeah.
So we'll see. And I was on another show this morning before ours, and based upon Alabama's health right now and the way some guys are playing, it's going to be very, very difficult to beat North Carolina. But I'm not going to sit here and shrink. I picked Alabama to beat Carolina and upset them and then lose to Arizona, which I thought would be a very difficult matchup. But the way Carolina's playing, they're 29-7. It's going to be very difficult for Alabama to beat them. But you never know if you can put together 40 minutes. Maybe Grant Nelson will finally produce. He was awful, I thought, in the 2 games. He didn't stay on the floor for 20 minutes in either game. He fouled too much. I think he scored a combined 6 points.
Yeah.
They just need more out of him, and they're going to need more out of him if they're going to beat a team like Carolina. He needs to finish at the rim. He needs to get going, and it's going to be difficult because Carolina's very talented, and he's going to probably have to help guard Baycott, who's a very experienced guy, very good player. But Alabama did see North Carolina last year. Travis kind of mentioned that one, the one in Portland. Now, that Carolina team, a lot of those pieces are still there, but they do have some new guys in the rotation and they're much better defensively. So that's what's going to be really interesting. Alabama's actually played their 2 best games, I thought, defensively back-to-back of the season. So they're guarding better now. But certainly, Alabama's going to have to get Reitzel back, and they're going to have guys like Nick Pringle, Grant Nelson, and now Muhammad Diabate. I would expect him to get more minutes based upon how he played in these 2 games. I thought he played valuable minutes in both games, played double-digit minutes in both the wins, over College of Charleston and Grand Canyon.
Yep.
And they're going to need more guys to contribute to have a chance to beat a team like North Carolina.
Well, if they get it by North Carolina, it would be the second ever trip for Alabama to the Elite Eight on this day. 20 years ago.
Crazy, man.
Alabama got by defending national champion Syracuse 80-71 in Phoenix, by the way, to get to the school's first ever Elite Eight.
Well, and the funny thing is, like Jay Billis and a lot of guys that have been in this 20 years, most were picking Syracuse. Alabama was not picked to get to the Elite Eight. But I thought it was a good matchup. I thought Alabama, if they shot it well, which they did, matched up pretty well with Syracuse, and they did in that game. And a lot of people yesterday were picking Grand Canyon. Pretty much everybody on the March Madness in the CBS, TBS coverage, Charles and all those guys, Seth Davis picked Grand Canyon. So Alabama will be the big-time underdog against North Carolina, but just like they were, against Stanford, during the round of 32 win that got them to the Sweet 16. So, like you said, Travis just put it succinctly, you just shoot your shot. I mean, you try to get guys healthy and then go let it rip and see if you can knock off a 1 seed. And so far, all the 1s have survived. So and the 2s. So we're going to continue to see if and today's a big day. That's why we got David Sisk coming up. What's Kentucky going to do? Are they going to move on from Calipari? Calipari and his staff were not at the state tournament in Rupp Arena.
I heard this was a big day. I've heard from, Matt Jones has put it out there that this is a big day. Big day for Kentucky.
And that may be why some of these schools like Vanderbilt have not, filled their coaching vacancies, because if John Calipari is out there, there are going to be people shooting their shot for him, because he may move on from Kentucky, but he's still an elite Hall of Fame coach that you wouldn't think would be on the market. And so we'll see.
Does Kentucky move on from John Calipari? Well, let's ask David Sisk that in question and more, plus a little North Carolina talk as well. Let's get a break in.
You're listening to Talkin' Ball on 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
From the Fox 54 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Emily Owen. For this Monday night, expect rain and a few thunderstorms to develop mainly after midnight. We'll see low temperatures fall into the upper 50s for the overnight. We'll keep windy conditions in the forecast as well. We could see wind gusts as high as 45 miles per hour. Heading into your Tuesday, rain and a few thunderstorms going to be possible. High temperatures topping out in the upper 60s for the afternoon. I'm Fox 54 meteorologist Emily Owen on your home for ESPN Radio 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
They've got power lines down across the road at that wreck on Thompson Road east of John D. Long. That's in Morgan County. That one also has got an injury. Vehicle hit a tree or a utility pole there. 72 in Nance, eastbound blockage there should be about ready to clear. And in Decatur, 6th Market should be about ready to move. Both of those came in as no injury. And we've been seeing slowdown eastbound on 565 around Glen Hern and Wall Triana. Can't see what the problem is, but it's definitely slowing down. Do you know who to call when you need a heart doctor? You could write this name down now so you have it in the future. Dr. Randall Burns is at Huntsville Heart Specialists on Bob Wallace Avenue. Captain Nick in the Jordan Lane Popeye Skywatch Traffic Center.
It's a beautiful day for a ball game.
Here it comes, and there it goes. Fly ball, deep left field, way back. This one is up. This one is gone.
Grab your peanuts and Cracker Jacks and get ready to cheer on the Tide.
Called third strike, a slider lower inside corner.
The Tide plays here all season long.
Here's a spin. Here's Bowman's throw home. The slide, and he's safe.
On your home for Alabama baseball, the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield.
The good folks at Wendy's have a revolutionary new product for you. Introducing the new Orange Dreamsicle Frosty. It's like a time machine that takes you all the way back to now, the year 2024. It's the classic, creamy, orangey flavor you remember. Dare I say, it's new-timey. It's the flavor you grew up with, just all grown up. Head over to your local Wendy's establishment and get yours while supplies last. The new Orange Dreamsicle Frosty. Here for the now, for now.
Limited time only at participating Wendy's.
Do you have discomfort in your legs? Varicose veins can affect not only how your legs look, but how they feel. Symptoms can include pain, heaviness, aching, fatigue, or swelling at the end of the day. If this has been the case, then Varicosity Vein Center can come to your aid. Evaluation and treatment of the veins is performed as an outpatient, utilizes the latest, minimally invasive techniques, and is covered by most insurances. After treatment, patients may resume most normal activities without delay. Varicosity Vein Center now has 3 North Alabama locations, one in Huntsville on South Memorial Parkway between Drake and Airport Road. Our new locations include Madison at Madison Hospital Complex and Coleman at the Coleman Regional Sports Medical Center. You can call 256-715-7151 to set up your appointment with one of our experienced and compassionate team members, or you can visit online at varicosityveincenter.com. Varicosity Vein Center, Alabama's premier vein center.
Isn't the story of the prodigal son an amazing story? Basically, a rowdy boy who literally wished his father dead ran away and consumed his wealth with hard and fast living. Yet the father looked for his return every day, and when the boy got tired of eating pig slop, he decided to return. What did the father do? As soon as he saw that boy, he ran to him, threw his arms around him, and killed the fatted calf for a great celebration. Hey, I'm John Dees, pastor of the Cross Point Church. If you're looking for a church home, come see us, smack dab across the street from the YMCA in Madison.
There you go. Welcome back. Talking Ball 97.7 ESPN, The Zone. Scott Tyson, Drew DeArmond. We are holding court this morning here at Bill Penny Toyota in the service department. And court has been where we have been all morning. The basketball court is where we have been all morning, talking about the NCAA tournament. The first full weekend is in the books. The Sweet 16 is on the horizon. And there are blue bloods in the Sweet 16. There are top seeds in the Sweet 16. But a lot of attention is also about a couple teams not in the tournament, and that is a blue blood themselves, and that would be the Kentucky Wildcats, because they are at a crossroads. It appears, I'm going to say it appears they are at a crossroads.
Yeah, it does. It really does. And this could be a big day, and our next guest covers them extensively for Cats Illustrated, part of the Rivals Network. Also covers the North Carolina Tar Heels, and we can intertwine that into the conversation because we've been talking about it all morning. They're going to play the Alabama Crimson Tide, as Scott has told you, on Thursday night. It'll be a late tip-off for Alabama from Los Angeles, nearly a little after 8:30. But we always love talking with our next guest, talking some hoops. Saw him in Nashville, and that's Coach David Sisk, and he's going to talk some hoops with us here on the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline. Coach, you're with Drew and Scott. How are you?
I'm good. Drew, you can handle that late tip, man. You were up past 9 o'clock in Nashville the other night. So
I was,
8:39
Yeah,
Central Time for that tip-off, 9:39 Eastern Time. I mean, think about this. The Iowa State-Illinois game is not going to tip off until 10:09 Eastern Time on Thursday. 10 o'clock on Thursday Eastern Time.
You know, Colin Cowherd, I've always heard him say that he did sports talk shows in every time zone in the United States. They always talk about how great the West Coast and Las Vegas and all that was, how bad it was in Florida because of all the, you're out west and, you've got earlier tips. These tips are 7 o'clock. So obviously they can get to work on time the next morning.
Yeah, they can. And, Coach, before we delve into the Kentucky situation, your thoughts on the matchup with Alabama and North Carolina. The Tide, there's some uncertainty. Now, Coach Nate Oates was saying they're going to have Latrell Wrightsell, but we don't know that for sure yet. Alabama had to win a grimy, gritty game against Grand Canyon. Carolina, after the slow start against Michigan State, played really well. How do you kind of see the matchup?
The over-under is 172.5. And if I'm Hubert Davis, I go into my team and say, look, I've got a gambling addiction, and I've loaded up and took the under on this, and they're going to send the leg breakers out if it hits the over. Please do not let this hit the over, because the more points that are scored, the better chance Alabama's got. And obviously Alabama plays that way. But I'll give you a number here. North Carolina, when they hold opponents to 70 points or less, are 22-0. When teams score 71 or more, they're 7-7.
Oh,
so
interesting.
As the score gets higher, here's what obviously North Carolina's got a really good defensive team, and that takes them out of that. But let me tell you what they do. I think they get less buttoned up. The more free-flowing they get, the more they try to outscore the other opponent. They just get sloppy. They take bad shots. Then they just don't focus on the defensive end of it. So if I'm Alabama, I really want to get that score high. Excuse me. If I'm North Carolina, I want to hold it down. And I know it's probably going to go over 70, but you don't want that thing to get up. I mean, this kind of spread, you're talking about a game in the upper 80s, low 90s, and North Carolina cannot let that get up there. I I find it hard for Alabama to match up with Baycott inside. I think they're going to have to double, and they do an excellent job out of post doubles. They'll have a package ready. They did against Michigan State. It's going to be tough on Alabama to match up with him. And the thing with Alabama right now, if they come out and shoot the ball well from three, North Carolina's going to have problems. Anybody's going to have problems with Alabama when they do that. But, they've not done that down the stretch. They've not shot it well. And I looked last night, they're 8 for 31 from three. Sears was 5 for 11. So you take Sears out of the account, Alabama's 3 for 20 from three. And, they can't do that. It kind of looks to me like right now, like Alabama's kind of falling into the trap that Tennessee has, where Tennessee's really dependent on Dalton Connect, and Alabama's really got dependent on Mark Sears.
Yeah, that's why they need Reitzel back. So.
Yeah, defensively, though, the one thing going into the tournament was, okay, can Alabama step up their defensive intensity? And through the first two games, they have looked better defensively.
But this hasn't been Carolina.
Yes.
That's the only problem.
Yes, it's not been. It was Charleston who doesn't play defense. But, but anyway, they have looked better, David. Are we looking at it correctly?
Yeah, I think so, especially first shot offense, I think, last night. Now, I'm going to say this. Grant, you saw why Bryce Drew got fired at Vanderbilt when you watched their offensive scheme last night. There wasn't one. I mean, you talk about rolling the ball out.
Yes.
And, that they did the same thing, Friday night. There just was it was hard offense to watch. But I think the defense sometimes has got something to do with that. So, I think, anything – I covered Kentucky. So you talk about a team – I know all about teams that struggle to guard. So I think you're just looking for positives. I think that was a big improvement. And they're going to have to do that because North Carolina runs good stuff and are efficient. That's the first thing I think about Hubert Davis. He's a really good offensive play caller. They set the stuff up well. So, they're going to have to defend against North Carolina, no doubt about it. But if I'm an Alabama fan, I take positives from the weekend.
Well, and then now, if you're a Kentucky fan, you certainly don't. And they went down in the first round to Oakland. And we've heard all the speculation all weekend, David, and you've followed that program closely. You're close to the situation. Matt Jones, others have said this is going to be a big day. The pendulum could swing one way or the other with Mitch Barnhart and John Calipari. I know Travis Perry, Kentucky signee, his high school won the first state championship ever, and he was MVP, and yet Cal and his staff weren't there in Rupp Arena. What are you hearing? What is John Calipari? How much trouble is he in?
Man, that's a great question, and it's not the $1 million question; it's the $33 million question.
Yeah,
so that's what his buyout is, and it depends who you talk to. There right now, and it's just not right now. I think in Kentucky, the athletic program, the school, the boosters, just everybody involved, they're divided into camps, and I think that has been the case at Kentucky for a while now. John Calipari's burned a lot of bridges there, and he has not been and we've said it during the year, so I'm not talking out of school, and I'm not saying anything and I've not said during the year. The basketball program and the athletic program, the basketball program and administration, the basketball program and compliance, the basketball program and boosters. There's a huge rift between the basketball program and everybody, and it comes back to Calipari. He's burned a lot of bridges. So there's not support for him around those others. I think Mitch Barnhart maybe is really kind of caught off guard about how adamant the boosters are against John Calipari in no uncertain terms. And like I said, I think it's in the camps, depending who you talk to. And I think this comes from different individuals. One group will tell you the money's there. The boosters say there's no problem with the money. If you talk to people around the basketball program, sources there, they'll tell you the money's not there. So I'd heard originally that it'll come down to Barnhart, the AD, to make the decision. I don't doubt that, but I've also heard that from individuals that have maybe that he's spoken to privately that he really doesn't want to pull the trigger here, and the decision may be up to Calipari. I can't imagine why Calipari would leave. So it is going to be interesting. When it comes down, I could be totally off here because nobody really knows for sure. But when it comes down to it, I think he'll be back. If he's going to be slow to pull the trigger and it's up to Cal, I just think it'll be back. And things could come out today, like you said, today, tomorrow, where we hear something and it's just like, whoa, this thing could really happen. And it might, but right now I'd lean toward him coming back. I think there's going to have to be some changes. If I'm Mitch Barnhart, you've got him here. There's been talk about next year being a farewell tour for Cal. He's got that contract through 28-29. He's owed him the $33 million. Just say, look, all right, you really want this last year? We'll give you this last year, but we're going to redo this contract where next year's it, and we're going to get out from under this huge buyout, and it's going to be up to you. And if you don't want to do it, we'll go elsewhere. I think now's the opportunity for them to do that, and I'd also be, your coaching staff, assistant coach is useless. So you need to make some moves, and that's what happens in football a lot. You get rid of the coordinators a year before the head coach goes. So I think if he comes back, there are going to have to be some changes to the contract, and there are going to have to be some changes to the coaching staff. Now, this is just conjecture on my part, but if I'm Mitch Barnhart and I'm going to bring him back, I'd do it with those caveats.
So Cal comes from Memphis, and when he was at UMass, I mean, you looked at his teams, and they played defense. They played with intensity. They played hard offensively. It was imaginative. It was creative. Over the years, it seems like he's gotten away from what has made him Coach Cal.
Yes, and you couldn't have said it better. But this year, obviously, they're just horrific defensively. And you go to the loss the other night against Oakland, and it was one-on-one how not to coach defense. And but the problem is it's just not this year. I mean, these are the teams that he has lost to over the last couple of years, in the last 4 or 5 years. Evansville, Richmond, St. Peter's, UNC Wilmington, Oakland, and lost to Vanderbilt twice last year. And they all had guards that they couldn't keep in front of them. They're all small ball lineups. And that's been the case. So he can't look at it and say, well, this is just a one-hit wonder. We've not guarded. They've not had a good defensive team since 2019 and 18-19, in my opinion. And this happens every year. They have not defended in years. And one thing he says, too, he says, well, we're young. He throws that one out there. We're young. And he kind of threw the players under the bus the other night. But look, I couldn't count the transfers he started on two hands in the last 3 or 4 years. He went 2 years there, and it didn't work because he had the oldest teams he's ever had at Kentucky. It was full of transfers and guys that stayed for the second and even the third years that were playing a ton. And the same thing happened. They get beat by St. Peter's, and they get put out last year, in the second round by Kansas State. Don't win a game in the SEC tournament. Didn't win one last year. Got 1-1, beat Vanderbilt 2 years ago on Friday night. Got put out on Saturday, with the transfers. So that didn't work. So, he's building in every excuse like he normally does. But the bottom line is, no matter what he's tried, it's not worked.
And we're talking to David Zisk, Rivals.com. Does a great job covering Carolina and Kentucky. And as we're wrapping it up, Coach, I know Mitch Barnhart has a really good reputation as an AD, but is there confidence in the people around the Kentucky program that he would have a plan like Greg Byrne did when Nick Saban, retired, and he had, Kalen DeBoer hired in 48 hours. If it comes down the pipe later today or in the next day or two that John Calipari is stepping away, is there confidence that he has a plan to replace John Calipari in the most pressure-packed job in college basketball?
No, there's not, but I don't know that it's founded. And I've owned a couple of DM groups with a lot of Kentucky people, boosters, basketball people, and that's the fear right there. They keep throwing names out. They're going, well, Scott Drew, this guy got put out in the second round, and he's done the same thing Cal's done. He's got put out a bunch early, and you start pulling up names, and they're like, well, this guy's not doing any better than Calipari's done. So that's the thing right now. Who is out there that could succeed him? And I'm going to be honest, and it's not going to happen because I think of the new buyout. I think it could, 3-4 years from now it would because it goes down. But I think Nate Oates is as attractive as anybody.
Yeah,
and
wow.
If Nate Oates, if they hadn't redone his contract, I think he would be candidate number one. But now that's just on my part. But, I mean, if you look, he's won 2 SEC titles. He's got to the Sweet 16 3 out of the last 4 years. And, the way he plays, he runs in the match, the modern-day offense. I think it's stuff that we Kentucky fans would warm to in a hurry. But who else is out there? I don't know. So that's the thing. And we don't know this, but I just think from looking afar, unless he absolutely pulled something out of the hat that nobody saw, and he could get Danny Hurley from UConn, which I couldn't see happening. I don't know why he would do that. Like Hurley would do that. He could get a Billy Donovan for the NBA. I don't know why he would do that. I don't know that anybody else right now is overly attractive unless they made some kind of huge run within the next 2 weeks and suddenly became a rock star. But I don't know that he's got time to wait that out to see. You're looking at guys right now as of whatever today's date is, the 22nd or the 23rd of March. That's what he's looking at today. And I don't know who that hot list of candidates would be, to be honest with you.
Yeah, because then you might, with the transfer portal, the roster could disintegrate, and then even that recruiting class that Coach Cal has signed and would be bringing in.
That's a fear, too.
Right.
That's a fear, too, and you'll hear the national people say that. If you get rid of Calipari, you're building from the ground up for next year. But I disagree. One thing I disagree with on, and I think a lot of younger people haven't seen it because they weren't around when Pitino was there. So I'm talking people, when I say younger, I'm talking people really 50 or under. They don't know success at Kentucky outside of John Calipari. And they
right.
think that Kentucky's success didn't start with John Calipari. It's like Alabama was Saban. Alabama. What did Alabama win? What would you guys always say? Well, look, there's been a ton of coaches have success at Alabama. Alabama's bigger than a coach, and in football. And I think you can say the same thing about basketball. I mean, basically every coach except one or two in the last 90 years have won the national championship there, and frankly, the ones that were there that couldn't control the alcohol issue. So I think that you bring in a good guy, there's no reason he can't win at Kentucky.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, Coach, we always appreciate the time. Woo. Some great stuff when it comes to the inner workings of Kentucky, and, of course, good stuff on Carolina, matching up with Bama. But let everybody know how to follow you, and we appreciate the time.
Sure, Coach David Sisk at Twitter, and also you can follow me on the Rivals Network at the Kentucky and North Carolina site. So I appreciate you guys having me.
Yes,
all right,
sir.
thanks,
Thank
Coach.
You.
All right, we've got to get that break in. Wrap it up all next.
You're listening to Talkin' Ball on 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
They're going to have to replace a utility pole on Thompson Road east of John D. Long. They've got power lines down in the area. They did have an injury in that accident, had single vehicle hit a utility pole there. 72 eastbound at Nance and in Decatur, 6th and Market, both should be clearing. I'm still seeing slowdown on 565 eastbound in the curve around Glen Hearn and Wall Triana. I don't see any problem there unless construction is causing the headache. Snelling needs experienced production managers. Direct hire in Madison with great benefits. Snelling, how the area's best companies hire talent. Huntsville.snelling.com. Captain Nick in the North Parkway Popeyes Skywatch Traffic Center.
Eagle Masonry and Insulation. It's right there in the name. Eagle is your one-stop shop for block, stone, or brickwork, monument signs, and outdoor kitchens and fireplaces. Eagle also offers the finest craftsmanship and insulation, including fiberglass or spray foam insulation, and of course, insulation removal. Philip Love and his team have years of experience bringing the region the best in masonry and insulation services. For more information and a quote, visit insulatewitheagle.com or call 256-755-1556. Eagle saves you time. Eagle saves you money. Specializing in simple and affordable rentals, McCurry Van and Car Rental can make sure you have just the right vehicle for your next family vacation, weekend getaway, or if you just need transportation while your vehicle is being repaired. McCurry carries Ford Transit vans and Mercedes Sprinter vans, trucks and work vans, and more. And they offer discounted rental rates for long-term rentals. Now with 4 locations: Athens, Muscle Shoals, Coleman, and Huntsville. Log on McCurryRentals.com to make your reservation now. That's McCurryRentals.com.
It's time for tomorrow's headlines today with Scott Tyson and Drew DeArmond on 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
Very short time left here in our 2-hour extravaganza from Bill Penny Toyota.
Yeah, we love our sponsor, Bill Penny Toyota, and we appreciate David Sisk for that very interesting look inside Kentucky.
It's kind of eye-opening, isn't it?
Yeah.
Can you imagine if you are in one of those camps?
Yeah, like you talked about, all the different camps at Kentucky.
Can you imagine if you're sitting in, and we're not talking about, premier camps or anything like that. We're talking about if you are sitting at the table.
Stay or go.
Okay, if you are sitting at the table and you were asked the question, if you were Mitch Barnhart and you were seriously asking the question, and if I asked you, if you're Mitch Barnhart, okay, Mitch, what are you going to do? Are you going to walk into his office and are you going to tell him we're moving on, or are you going to tell him we're staying? Pat, I mean, what decision do you make? I mean, it's a hard decision to make right now.
I would say give him another year, just simply because of the roster and the recruiting class that he's got put together.
Yep.
Because in the transfer portal era, that'll be picked clean, and even if you hire a great coach and he can still win at Kentucky. I think Coach Disk was kind of talking about the transition that Rick Pitino went through, that you had to take some lumps.
Yep.
You're probably going to have to take some lumps next year if you're Kentucky. You're not going to be a preseason top 10 team.
It's a scary thought, though, too, because coaches that are top-tier coaches don't grow on the tree. You can't just go pick one.
No, not in Kentucky.
You can't go pick one. Yeah, you can't just pick one and be like, there you go. There's a replacement. It's very rare.
What happened with Billy Clyde Gillespie. That was the issue.
That worked out well, did it not?
No, yeah. Not so much.
Worked out well. Oh, we're done. It's worked out well for us. We'll see you back tomorrow.
At Bryant Bank, we recognize your time is valuable and easy